But this is a man, Roman Reigns, who's weathered the storm time and time again.
A lot of bit of rinse and repeat with that little bit of international flair. Woo! What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day to all of you out there. I am Don Tony. It is Saturday afternoon, November 4th, 2023, about 4:45 p.m. WWE Crown Jewel from Saudi Arabia just ended, and I am up here to give you a little bit of a review with some pictorial highlights, some comments, some opinions, where we came, where we are, and where we go from here. So I want to thank you very much for joining me. Fun show. Is it one that we're really going to remember down the line? Maybe, in some cases. This was obviously the road, beginning the road to Survivor Series. And hey, this is newsworthy. They made it official today during Crown Jewel that WarGames will be returning for Survivor Series November 25th in Chicago, Illinois. I know, let the CM Punk buzz begin or continue, but CM Punk is not returning. In fact, yesterday he was on commentary for another MMA event and trolling about WWE, AEW, and Impact Wrestling. But WarGames returning, and I think a lot of what you saw tonight at Crown Jewel is going to lead into WarGames. You know, something that you and I have talked about for the last couple of weeks that a lot of people still really didn't think about. Maybe today it's a little bit different, especially how Crown Jewel ended. But when we were talking about WarGames matches, sure, you and I discussed there's going to be a Team Raw versus Team SmackDown match, but that's not WarGames. That's just your traditional 5-on-5 for bragging rights. But there's going to be a WarGames match as well. And the storyline of the Judgment Day and the Bloodline having an alliance was designed for only one reason and one reason only. We've been saying this since August, and that was Survivor Series. Remember Fastlane? You know, little tidbit that a lot of people did not pay attention to. The day before Fastlane is when Paul Heyman and Rhea Ripley made that alliance. And if you recall, Jimmy Uso did not get involved with the Tag Team Championship match. And lo and behold, Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso win the titles. But then you're faced with a little bit of a dilemma. And there's a lot of people that still haven't even figured this out. Nick Aldis is now the SmackDown GM. Adam Pearce is the GM for Raw. Storyline, they don't get along. They're not very happy with each other. Why in storyline would Nick Aldis allow Finn Balor and Damian Priest to be on WarGames on the same team as the Bloodline, who are SmackDown stars, when Damian Priest and Finn Balor are not tag team champions? They are Raw wrestlers. Why would Nick Aldis in storyline want two Raw wrestlers to be on Team SmackDown for WarGames, which is the Bloodline. Why would you allow the Judgment Day align with the Bloodline? If you're Adam Pearce, you would be a fool. Why would I have two of my top competitors, Damian Priest and Finn Balor, be on the team with the Bloodline to beat up Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and whoever else? Well, you do the title change back. Now Finn Balor and Damian Priest are both brands. They are the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. So they are kind of neutral, if you think about it. So now when the Bloodline and the Judgment Day team up for WarGames, nobody could really question it because Finn Balor and Damian Priest are technically on both brands. So tonight, LA Knight getting screwed by Jimmy Uso. That is going to continue the feud with LA Knight. But the big wild card right now is, does LA Knight become part of WarGames? And if so, why would Nick Aldis allow it? Or why would Adam Pearce be welcoming of having a SmackDown wrestler technically on a Team Raw? So there's a lot of little nuances that need to be straightened out. But keep in mind, we're only 3 weeks away from WarGames. That's a big deal because you got this week's shows, which is going to be the fallout from Crown Jewel. Then you got next week. And then the week after is the go-home show of Crown Jewel. I mean, of Survivor Series. So there's not a lot of time. So WWE has a little bit of explaining to do to make it all make sense as far as TV goes. But once again, we get a little rinse and repeat in a Roman Reigns match. Solo Sikoa on the rampway, Jimmy Uso getting involved, causing a little bit of distraction for LA Knight. That allows Roman Reigns to get the upper hand, get the win. We have had well over a year plus of rinse and repeat with Roman Reigns title defenses. But because the Bloodline storyline has been so solid, because Roman Reigns is at the top of his game, people pretty much give it a pass, but it is getting tiresome. The consolation of it is that WarGames will be different. WarGames, we don't have to worry about a Roman Reigns title defense. That will lead into, December. Then we have to revisit that and see where this goes from here. But a couple of things went down tonight. Got an interesting reaction. And I have some pictorial highlights to share with all of you out there. We'll get into it in a moment. John Cena eating 15 spikes. 15 spikes. And if you tune into my predictions, we rooted for Solo Sikoa to win this one. But you question Saudi Arabia with the feel-good. It's got to be feel-good moments more than anything else. Would WWE actually have Solo Sikoa win? But now they are teasing that maybe John Cena is retired because John Cena needed this victory. Now, will John Cena be on SmackDown this Friday? There's a possibility of it. You almost feel like John Cena needs to have a goodbye speech. He's been on television for almost every single week for 2 months. To just disappear, I don't think that helps Solo Sikoa all that much. Because right now, Michael Cole teasing that maybe Solo Sikoa forced John Cena into retirement. John Cena, I think, needs to hint at that and then leave. Then we get towards WrestleMania time. Then maybe John Cena makes a return. And the match that we talked about a week or two ago, it's not a bad idea. The Rock and John Cena teaming up to take on Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And I know, you got to go, quite a ways to go from this to this, but, kind of makes sense. And, but you kind of feel like if that happens, The Rock and John Cena probably have to get the victory. Also, tonight, we had a feeling, man. This was funny a couple of weeks ago talking about this, and people thought I was nuts. People thought I was nuts about Logan Paul winning the United States Championship. You got to keep in mind of SmackDown and the fact that Roman Reigns is not on TV every single week. LA Knight is super, super over, but he's not Roman Reigns. He's not the World Heavyweight Champion. He does not create a buzz outside of wrestling. Let me repeat those 3 words, outside of wrestling. LA Knight does not create a buzz outside of wrestling yet. So with SmackDown, with Fox, look at Fox dropping WWE and not renewing SmackDown. We'll talk about it on Monday. We're not doing news today, but, Fox did come out and they feel that their return, especially with the audience, was not as big as they expected it to be. Now with John Cena, ultimately going back to Hollywood and Roman Reigns not, taking, being on TV every single week, you need a little bit of an extra buzz for SmackDown. And we wondered 2 weeks ago, could Logan Paul end up being that guy, whether you like it or not, being on SmackDown every week for the next month or two? I don't think it's going to be long term, but the idea of him winning the United States Championship would weigh heavily on if Logan Paul is going to stick around. And sure enough, today, he won that championship. Now, I will tell you this, man. I'm not a fan of Logan Paul. He's got, 95 million social media followers? I am not one of them. I have nothing really personal against the guy. The guy, one thing that I will respect about Logan Paul is that he takes the wrestling seriously. Whether you like him or not, he takes the wrestling seriously. He is too cocky to be mid. And I don't like using the word mid. I think it's the first time I've used that term in about 6-7 months, but he is too arrogant to be average. He's too arrogant to just wing it. So if he is going to do something, it's balls out or nothing at all. I will tell you, I'm getting a little bit tired of this storyline chicken shit excuse that WWE always falls back on. They've done it for 2 shows now, possibly 3, where somebody that we don't even know in the wrestling world that's just happens to be a random Prime Energy friend of his shows up I'm tired of that. And it's only been, I think, 2 or 3 shows, but don't start doing that fucking pattern. Don't start doing that shit. The guy, I get it. They want him to be more of not just a cheater, but since he's inexperienced, he needs that outside help. But, that's just, to me, a lame cock-out. Why not have Dominic Mysterio get involved? Seriously. I know Dominic got involved, later on, with Cody versus Damian Priest, but why not put Dominic in that place? Especially with the heel heat that Dominic already has, especially in the storyline with his father. I know they don't want to revisit it, but everything about Logan Paul and Dominic Mysterio's promo 2 weeks ago was about Ray. Why not just put Dominic in that place? You put some guy that looked like a cross between a normal-sized human being and a midget. It's like a dwarf had sex with a regular-sized person and gave birth to that guy. I know I'm not personal against him, but I didn't feel that at all. I will say this though, the idea of the Nux being left on the side of the apron when Santos Escobar chased that prick away, that was good. That was good because Logan Paul looks down, he's like, "Oh, here's the Nux. I'll take the 619, but I got the Nux in my hand." He knocks out Rey Mysterio and he wins it. So, I thought that spot was good. I just feel, what about that soccer player? What happened with him? Did they have a falling out at the last minute that he didn't appear? Instead, we had some Saudi Arabian actor, which I thought was good. We'll definitely get into that, helping remind us that The Miz is kind of a babyface now. But Logan Paul, your new United States champion. Now, something else that happened today, and the interesting thing about it is I got to pull up my notes because I wrote something as the match was going on. I was writing down the match with Bianca Belair and Io Sky. By far the least receptive match as far as crowd reaction goes. The crowd enjoyed it, but if you want to say that the crowd, if you want to pick any matches where the crowd didn't feel like they were into it anywhere near compared to other matches, it was both women's matches tonight. Outside of Rhea Ripley, I should say. Rhea Ripley, we'll get into that entrance that she had today. It just kept going and going and going. I walked the dog. I took a shit. I made a drink. I took another shit. I took a leak. I went to the grocery store. I checked my emails. And the entrance is still going. But it shows you how badass Rhea Ripley is received. She is the number one woman in the country. Don't give me some dumb fuck that PWI ranks number 9 because in Japan, when 98% of non-Japanese viewers have no idea who the person is. Don't give me that shit. But when I was taking the notes, I wrote this. This is what I wrote. Io with a late drop kick to Bianca Belair's knee for a 2 count. Then hits the stretch muffler submission attempt, and Bianca breaks out with a suplex. Now, at this time, rumors were flying that Kairi Sane could debut as early as Crown Jewel. Why? In big capital letters. Would most of the younger Saudi Arabian fans remember her? I actually wrote that while I was taking the notes. And sure enough, as the match goes on, Bayley makes an appearance. I mean, since Fastlane, I thought Bayley and Io were on the same page. Is somebody having memory lapses in WWE? You remember, like, Jey Uso, when he went to Raw, we were supposed to forget that he quit the Bloodline like a month and a half earlier. We're supposed to forget the month-long build for Tribal Combat. Do the elders know this? It was their idea. Ooses, deuces, out. We're supposed to forget that for almost 2 months, a month and a half, whatever it was, Jey Uso was out of the Bloodline. He goes to Raw, and everybody's acting like he left the Bloodline a week earlier. We don't trust you. We think you'll rejoin the Bloodline. Tribal Combat wasn't enough to prove that, or screwing over Jimmy wasn't enough to prove that, or super kicking Solo Sikoa in the face 95 times wasn't enough. But now, after Fastlane, Io and Bayley hugging, they're dancing, they're doing the Laverne and Shirley intro, just randomly down the street. And then today, Bayley shows up, and Io Sky's like, "Why you do here? Why you here? Why you here?" And Bayley's like, no, I'm just looking out for you. I got everything covered. I mean, are we supposed to forget, like, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, everything is cool in the gang? So what happens? Bianca Belair starts beating the crap out of Bayley. Bianca Belair is about to hit the KOD to Bayley outside the ring. And sure enough, Kairi Sane makes a return. Definitely been on that Weight Watchers diet. Looks like that she lost like 10 pounds. And I'm not criticizing her, but she looked awfully small. I don't know what it was, but she looked, I don't know, very, very skinny. And I saw her about 6 weeks ago online, but she makes her appearance. Bianca Belair looks like she's seen a ghost. And there's this very, very mild reaction. Very mild reaction online. And I noticed right before we went live, I got a little bit of a super shout out here from, drumroll please, where is it? Nathan Timblin with the 5 spot. Thank you, Nathan. There was no reaction for Kairi Sane. If that was in the USA or the UK, she would have gotten a massive pop. Feel sorry for her. Keep up the good work. Don Tony the best. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. The crowd really didn't. You could almost imagine in the back where Triple H and production is like, hurry, pipe in shocked reaction. Ah! Like there was very, very little reaction. I think a very, very, listen, I'm a fan of Kairi Sane. I am one of the very, very few out there that has a Kabuki Warriors shirt. In fact, I even think I have 2 shirts of Kairi Sane. I've worn the Kabuki Warriors shirt on this show. But even when I saw that, I'm saying to myself, why have her show up in Saudi Arabia? Simply because EO can't get the clean win, or you can't just have Bayley get involved? Like, you have to do this. Why in Saudi Arabia? It got very, very little reaction. If you remember when Becky Lynch first won the NXT Women's Championship, and then that Monday after she won the championship, she was going to put an open challenge on Raw, and her open challenge was going to be answered by Tegan Nox. And at the very last second, they changed it from Tegan Nox to Natalya. Why? Because when Becky won the championship and she issued the challenge, the one thing that WWE was concerned about is that the majority of the WWE universe are not acclimated to Tegan Nox yet. A lot of people know who she is, but a lot of people don't care. And they did not want Tegan Nox to come out and you could hear somebody farting in section 610. So they went with a more familiar name, a recognizable name, a name that the whole WWE universe is aware of, and that was Natalya. And then they waited 2-3 weeks to build it up. And Becky had a little bit of a relationship with Tegan Nox. And then Natalya was angry at Tegan Nox. And then they had a match against each other. And then suddenly Natalya's rooting for Tegan Nox. And then Tegan Nox is getting baited by Chelsea Green. And now everybody is much warmer to Tegan Nox. So when she does have a match with Becky, there's a nice reaction to it. And that was well done. But with Kairi Sane, a majority of the people out there, except for a small, group online, nobody really was like, Sky Pirates. Oh, yeah. She was around pretty much during the pandemic. She came in 2017, and Saudi Arabia started in 2018, but in 2020 is pretty much when the pandemic started up and, things got a little bit awry. Kairi Sane has to be reintroduced to the WWE universe. A lot of fans of today were not WWE, talking about younger fans, were not fans of WWE 5 years ago. I mean, who, honestly, in that Saudi Arabian crowd, did you honestly think it was going to be like, oh, shit, Kairi Sane, fuck? No. It wasn't going to happen, so she comes out and gets very, very little reaction. Now the question is, what happens with Bayley? Are we going to get a little bit of a jealousy storyline here? Because remember, after the match was over and EO is celebrating with Kairi Sane, Bayley looks confused outside the ring. Why is she here? And if you want to go a little bit deeper, maybe we're going a little too deep right now, Kairi Sane looked like she had a little bit too much because she was hanging out with Nikki Cross a little bit too much. Very, very little reaction. If you look even here, she's stoic. She's not happy to see a friend. You would think they'd be hugging, they'd be smiling, they'd be dancing around in the ring. Oh my God, I'm back with my friend. I helped her retain. You would have thought that she was on intravenous medication all day long. No reaction. So is Kairi Sane, was she a hired gun by Io Sky behind Bayley's back? She didn't seem very happy to be there. You could be methodical. You could be maniacal. Bitch slapped to Bianca Belair. But no excitement? You're next to your friend? I'd be cheering up a storm. I'd be laughing it up. Io Sky is happy as a pig in shit. And Kairi Sane's dressing up as Nikki Cross for Halloween. So, a couple of things to think about. We got to remember that Crown Jewel is Saudi Arabia, and WWE is going to pander the shit out of Saudi Arabia. If I use an example for this show, it's as if somebody sends me a $10,000 super chat. Of course, I am going to roll out the red carpet. I'm going to dance on my fucking head. I am going to, even if it's the dumbest question in the world, I'm going to make it seem like it was amazing, epic, the most intelligent question I ever received because of the amount of money involved. When you realize that WWE has been there for 10 events, 10, and they get $50 million per event. You know, when everybody says, oh, Tony Khan grossed $100 million this year. Yeah, they don't bring up that Tony Khan also spent $150 million this year. Just imagine the amount of money that, and I'm saying this as a compliment to AEW right now, the amount of money that AEW will gross this year, WWE got in 2 events. Two. And on top of it, most of it is profit because they fly through Saudi Arabia. Did you see the video package earlier? Did you look closely? I mean, when they had LA Knight and Bayley and Bianca Belair, and they're talking about, oh my God, the Saudi Arabia, the plane, the food was amazing. Everybody was so kind and gracious. This is like an infomercial for Saudi Arabia and for their airlines. You see it in the background. You know, a lot of people online were brain dead. Vince McMahon is with The Undertaker at a UFC event. And Vince McMahon is quoted as saying, Saudi Arabia is our home. That's our home. And people start taking that out of context, thinking like, wait, you mean to tell me that the United States, Connecticut, their home, that Saudi Arabia is their new home? No, it's Vince McMahon trying to make the Crown Prince seem like the Almighty. The Almighty. Oh, Saudis are home. Because you want them, we can't, Saudis are home. How could WWE not be here? So they're going to say every fucking little thing to make Saudi, everything has got to be exaggerated to the umpteenth degree. So, you know, when you see some things understand that the amount of money is involved. You're going to see things that are kind of like really, really pandering. And you got to remember to yourself, $50 million. 50. Add up how much they got from WrestleMania. They would need to have, 5 WrestleManias? A whole WrestleMania weekend 5 times to equal that? So for a weekend, they have to go fucking all out. The weigh-in, Rey Mysterio, Logan Paul. The weigh-in. I saw the podcast from a lot of people ripping it from SmackDown. I saw Dutch Mantel's early 10. This is not criticism to any of them, but they were like, wow, what a waste of time and this and that. Yeah, some of the stuff is a waste of time, but it's fucking Saudi Arabia, so they got to make it seem like, oh my God, you know, unbelievable. Look, Logan Paul, Rey Mysterio, 213, 175. Look, the pull apart. They got to make everything seem that it's 10 times, look, you know, look, this is Saudi Arabia water. Oh, this is the most, I want to bathe in this. I want to just, I would drink this. Like everything has got to be exaggerated and inflated because it's the egos over there. At the same time, when you're getting paid that much money, you know, you don't think that Saudi Arabia looks at other countries and say, why do we pay $50 million? You know, so WWE has to do this. They have to do this. And that's why we had Miz TV earlier today. Miz TV happened. And I will tell you this. I am very, very happy that Miz TV, we'll get into the match results in a moment. Let me just cover Miz TV, get it out of the way. But Miz TV happens today. And, you know, most of us, we think that the soccer player is going to be there, that guy Christian, whatever, don't call me Cage. Miz comes out there, and you got to think to yourself, okay, is he a heel? Is he continuing the babyface thing? And he brings out Ibrahim Al-Hajjaj. Al-Hajjaj. He is the top actor in Saudi Arabia. Ibrahim. Hey, I don't know if he's a wrestling fan or not, But I thought, honestly, he did a great job. And nobody from Saudi Arabia sent me any money under the table to say that. I thought he did a decent job. They're in Saudi Arabia. Of course, they're going to do something like this. So Ibrahim comes out, and he's doing the thing with the Miz. And now you're saying to yourself, okay, what is going to happen? Because I saw social media. Before the next segment happened, social media is like, why are they going to make the Miz berate this guy? This guy's probably going to lay out Miz, but the Miz is going to feud with Gunther. Why are they going to do it? So sure enough, what ends up happening, we immediately get interrupted by Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller comes out. Grayson Waller is putting down the Miz. This is so 2005 what you're doing. And then he says to Ibrahim, like, you want, which is the better show? And Ibrahim says, oh, there's only one, the Miz TV. And the crowd pops like crazy. And Grayson Waller is questioning him and, think about it again. And Miz TV, awesome. So what ends up happening, Grayson Waller, little cheap shot to Ibrahim, which I thought sold it well. Ibrahim goes to the outside of the apron. Miz is waiting for Grayson Waller behind him, and sure enough, Miz hits Grayson Waller. And then Ibrahim does his best attempt at a spinning heel kick, whatever the fuck that was. It was not very good. He kicks Grayson Waller, misses by that much. Miz nails him, and then Ibrahim goes and does the people's elbow. Let's be honest, he did it 1,000 times better than Snoop Dogg. And after it's over, they're doing a little bit of kind of reminiscent of the NWO pose, and they celebrate. I thought the segment was okay because I understand they're in Saudi Arabia, and I know that they're going to do things like this. And hey, I'm still shocked that Indus Sher did not have a match on this card, even if it was Kickoff show, even if it was just a squash match. A little bit surprised, and this was probably, the runner-up. And listen, I honestly think that this guy would have been better than that soccer player, whatever he is, because this guy is home. It's homegrown. He is Saudi Arabia's #1 actor. So we got what we got. But I like that the Miz was well received, and his baby face run for now continues while he feuds with Gunther. Thought it was okay. I mean, something that I won't remember probably after this weekend, but I thought it was okay. I can't wait to get to the John Cena match because it was something that really, really irked me the wrong way. But let's run down the Crown Jewel card. Let's run it down pretty quickly. Got to give a lot of love to JD McDonagh, man, or a lot of props to JD McDonagh. And I'm sure a lot of you know exactly why I say that. So we had the pre-show. And again, as I said earlier, on SmackDown, we had the weigh-in, which was not at SmackDown last week. It was done in Saudi Arabia. I think the official weight for Logan Paul was 213 and Rey Mysterio was 175. Just to give the match a little bit of that big fight feel, and that's why they did it. But Crown Jewel, the kickoff match tonight, was Sami Zayn versus JD McDonagh. Two things I want to point out before we go any further. First of all, give a little bit of credit to Byron Saxton. Byron Saxton was your announcer today doing the introductions for the wrestlers. I thought he did a decent job. They wanted to hit two birds with one stone. Byron Saxton doing some behind-the-scenes duties for WWE, and they had him and not Samantha Irvin doing the introductions, which was fine. I mean, for Saudi Arabia, Crown Jewel, I thought Byron Saxton did a decent job. I don't think he was bad at all. Something else. Some of you may be wondering. This coincides with what I said earlier about Vince McMahon saying that Saudi Arabia is our home. Technically, it's their home away from home. But starting in January, WWE in Saudi Arabia is going to have this thing called The Experience. It's going to happen in January 2024. Apparently, the WWE experience is going to be, I don't want to say it's like WWF New York, but it's going to be, you're going to have guest appearances by wrestlers. They're going to have shops. They're going to have, they're going to have some of their memorabilia, their Hall of Fame stuff, their museum stuff is going to be flown to Saudi Arabia. This is where being a WWE ambassador starts to pay off. Because remember, there's a lot more money involved in this than you think. This isn't just Saudi Arabia opening up WWE shop, a memorabilia store, and just having some wrestlers periodically show up. Saudi Arabia is not it's not like going from Connecticut to Florida. It's much different, but you will see much more involvement there. And that is something expanding the relationship. And that starts in January 2024. So, match results from tonight. The kickoff match was Sami Zayn versus JD McDonagh. And my God, Sami Zayn, I don't know if I'm sure many of you remember this, but about a year and a half ago, or maybe a year ago, when Sami started doing the Bloodline, I made a comparison that Sami Zayn reminded me today, in today's era, today's generation, of Mick Foley. And Kevin Owens reminds me of Terry Funk. And no, they're not doing exploding death matches. They're not killing their bodies like Terry Funk, God rest his soul, and Mick Foley did. But the love, the connection, the relationship between Sami Zayn and the fans reminds me so much when Mick Foley turned babyface as Mankind. That relationship, and plus Sammy's just got that lovable thing about him. Plus Terry and Mick Foley, just like Sami and Kevin Owens, sure, they didn't grow up as kids hanging out. They became friendly in the 90s. But Sami Zayn gives me the vibes of the love that Mick Foley was given by fans back in the day. He was so freaking over in this match. And listen, they put on a banger of a kickoff match. The problem is that you have a countdown clock in the corner. So this match has to end in short time. And JD McDonagh early on had some decent offense. There was one really cool moment where Sami Zayn jumped off the top rope and was greeted by a drop kick by JD McDonagh. His timing is impeccable. And then we had one moment that I don't know if you all saw it, but there was one moment where Sami Zayn was running the ropes, JD as well. And Sami Zayn dropped down, and I guess he was supposed to give JD McDonagh a monkey flip. And I guess JD wasn't expecting it and improvised. And I think this is where this could have happened. But I could be wrong, but JD McDonagh got a massive rope burn. It looked like a rope burn to me. All right. That is not, just getting thrown into a step. That looked like a massive rope burn. If you look at the lines, that looked like a rope burn. And that shit looked like it freaking hurt. And still, he went through the match. The match ended shortly thereafter because of time constraints. Out of nowhere, you had Sami Zayn hit the exploder, hit the haluva kick, and then hit the blue thunder bomb consecutively and got the win on JD McDonagh. And, the crowd freaking loved it. The match was great. And, give JD McDonagh props because not only did he have this freaking burn, but later on, he would come out during the Damian Priest Cody Rhodes match. So, yeah, that especially look how fast. I could see, look, here, you want a good example? Here. I don't know if you could see this. See my arm? You could see that? If you zoom in, it looks disgusting. I don't want to zoom too far. You see that? You know what that is? I was drilling a hole inside my wall. And I was drilling, and me, like a stupid moron, didn't think that the drill bit would get extremely hot. So if you pretend this is the drill bit on the drill, after I pulled the drill out of the hole, I accidentally rested the drill bit and the drill on my arm, and it melted right through my skin. But when it first happened, I said, honey, look what happened to my arm. And she's like, I don't see nothing. The next day, it looked like this. It looked disgusting. JD McDonagh had this literally 5 minutes after it happened. So that shit looked like it hurt, but they went through the rest of the match, and Sami Zayn gets the win. He gets the win. Very, very good match to open it up. You understand now why JD McDonagh is so highly valued coming out of NXT. Not world championship material, but someone who works good, takes crazy fucking bumps, sells well, and is someone that you do want to go, dish, just slap him across the head. He is that perfect person. He's kind of like, and I hate to use it this way, but he's kind of like a much more talented Austin Theory, but not in the looks department. Like Austin Theory is kind of like the narcissist Lex Luger. JD McDonagh, just as people have said, he looks like a Funko Pop. You know, that giant head. It looks like a bobblehead. So, but that match was fun to open it up. Much fun to open it up. So, we now have the main show. And the first match is Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. And I got to be honest with you, I did not like the outcome of this match. Yes, the way it ended probably is needed to get Drew McIntyre full-blown heel. Because Drew McIntyre, you know, when they showed the highlights leading up to today's match, when Seth Rollins says, oh, I get it, you're going to cheap shot me from behind, and Drew McIntyre says, nope. I hated that. Because every time WWE repeated that over the last 2 weeks, they're reminding you that Drew McIntyre is a good guy. It's just he can't forgive what happened to the bloodline and having the championship during the pandemic era, and he wanted to. Remember, listen, this is one thing that's flawed. This is one thing that is truly flawed about this storyline with Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. If you remember Raw on Monday, when Drew, they showed that video package, which they repeated today, and Drew said, you know, that he never got a chance to be champion with live fans. And Seth Rollins cut that awesome promo that was real. You're like, oh, cry me a river that you couldn't celebrate with fans. You know, you couldn't do it in front of a live crowd. People didn't, you know, lost family. People didn't know where their next paycheck was going to come. People couldn't even afford groceries. So you say to yourself, oh, if the worst thing is that you had to be champion without live fans, you know, like look what everybody else went through. And that is awesome. And that is powerful. There's only one problem with that. Think about Drew McIntyre's side of it. Drew McIntyre wanted to have this title run and share it with live fans. As a fan, you can't deny but be on the side of Drew McIntyre with that. Most heels, I did it for myself. I don't need any of you. I did this for me. I celebrate for me. This is my money. It's like you could think of Christian Cage is a good example. If Christian Cage won the world heavyweight title right now, you wouldn't give a shit if there was only 2 people in attendance. He's doing it for him. So Drew McIntyre doing this storyline that I wanted to do it and share this and be the champion in front of live fans. As a fan, why would you go against that? So this storyline is flawed a little bit. Now Drew McIntyre has to ultimately say, I wanted to do everything for the fans. I wanted to do this. I wanted to share, and look where it's got me. And I think that ultimately has to come. That's the only thing I could say to try to make sense of what happened tonight. But the match itself was strong. Crowd was into it big time. At the very beginning of this match, Rhea Ripley tweeted to both guys as if they were going to read it because they were in the ring. Good luck, boys. Crowd was super hot during this match. They were super hot for Drew versus Jade and McDonagh. They were super hot for Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. And the story early on was Drew McIntyre working on the lower back of Seth Rollins. Nice belly-to-back suplex to the outside of the ring. Seth trying to recover numerous times during this match. But Drew McIntyre consistently working on the back. Latter part of the match, Seth Rollins with a beautiful high knee to Drew McIntyre, followed by a moonsault. And the crowd is emotionally involved with both guys chanting, "This is awesome." Hits the Falcon Arrow for 2. And then we start getting 2 and 99 100s as far as pin attempts. Seth Rollins with a great superplex, but Drew McIntyre immediately counters it with a suplex of his own and comes this close of winning the championship. Seth Rollins teasing that he can't get up, and Drew McIntyre showing maybe a little bit of empathy. Big mistake. Seth Rollins kind of suckers him, baits him into a roll-up. 2 and 99 100s. Then Drew McIntyre starts working on Seth's back once again, shoves him spine first into the ring steps, hits a side slam onto the edge of the ring. Now you're starting to feel the momentum turn. You think Drew McIntyre is winning this championship. And Seth Rollins is in a lot of pain right now. And Drew McIntyre goes for the Claymore. Seth Rollins counters it with a super kick. Then he hits a curb stomp. Once again, 2 and 99 100s. There was at least 4 different times that you thought that the match was ending. So Drew misses the Claymore, eats a super kick, almost gets pinned. Seth Rollins immediately tries to hit a Phoenix Splash onto Drew McIntyre, but Drew with the Claymore out of nowhere. Now you think it's over. No, it's not over. Seth Rollins kicks out at almost 3. So Drew McIntyre sets up for another Claymore and is greeted with a pedigree. Seth Rollins then hits a curb stomp right after the pedigree, and 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins is pinned. Drew McIntyre is looking at himself. He's fucking dejected. As Wade Barrett said, how the hell did I lose this match? How the hell did I lose this match? So Seth Rollins gets the win. And, I'm annoyed because at this point, I'm like, where do you go from here with Drew McIntyre? Now he's got to go full-blown heel. Now I'm convinced Drew McIntyre has the rematch. He's winning the championship. If Drew McIntyre does not win that championship on the rematch, give him his release. Seriously. Because Clash at the Castle, for many of us, it should have happened back then. In hindsight, I'm glad it didn't. But the payoff has to be a championship run. In fact, I'll go one step further. And I think every single one of you will agree with me on this. Next year, Saudi Arabia, one of the main events should be Drew McIntyre defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Sami Zayn. And maybe I would go one step further and have Sami Zayn win it in Saudi Arabia. You imagine, yes, it's regional, but could you imagine how insanely crazy that would be? It would give you vibes of Zelina Vega versus Rhea Ripley, but the difference is Zelina Vega, if she wins, it's justified. Drew McIntyre could have a nice run between, let's say, December until they go to Saudi Arabia. I know people are going to say Gunther, but Gunther still has his championship. Gunther, they could go so many different ways with. But I think Drew McIntyre, and think of the storyline, it makes sense. Drew McIntyre turns full-blown heel, and he does have issues with Sami Zayn because of Jey Uso being on Raw. So I think that down the line, I think that's one of your Saudi Arabia main events. Drew McIntyre defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Sami Zayn, and Sami wins the fucking title in Saudi Arabia. That's what I would do. So to divert attention quickly, we get Damian Priest running down the rampway with the briefcase in hand. He's looking at Mr. Bean. That's who I always call that referee. And I'm sure some other podcast out there will start calling that referee Mr. Bean. But he tells Mr. Bean, I want to cash in the briefcase. I want that championship shot. And he looks in the camera and he's showing off his pearly whites. And Damian Priest is all happy and everything. And right before he could cash in the briefcase, motherfucker Sami Zayn shows up. Sami Zayn takes the briefcase, nails Damian Priest, steals the briefcase, goes into the crowd, and runs away with it. And Damian Priest, when he had his match with Cody Rhodes, did not have the briefcase. And the fans took note of it, and they were trolling Damian Priest. Where's your briefcase? Where's your briefcase? Sami Zayn would not return for the rest of the night. Sami Zayn would not get involved in any of the ladder matches. And I don't say ladder as in climbing, as in L-A-T-T. E-R-A-R. E-R. Yes, L-A-T-T-E-R. Any of the matches later on. But Sami Zayn runs into the crowd with the briefcase, and Damian Priest does not cash in. So, somehow, while this went on for about 45 seconds, 60 seconds, somehow Drew McIntyre is already in the back, already sitting on some equipment, dejected. This wasn't like 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later. This was literally right after the Sami Zayn Damian Priest thing. And we see Drew McIntyre in the back looking dejected, and here's Rhea Ripley. He turns around, he looks at Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley kind of does the Pete Dunne. Rhea Ripley looks at him, and she goes, like, told you. And Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, they were all there. They did not come out. They did not get involved. And Wade Barrett pushing that storyline that Damian Priest looks like Drew McIntyre looks like a fool for not accepting the Judgment Day's offer. So this is where the storyline continues. Now you got to think Survivor Series. Remember the possibility that Drew McIntyre is asked to be on the team to take on the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. The problem is you're inside a cage. You're inside WarGames. Once you're locked in, you really can't get out. So if Drew McIntyre at the last minute, he's supposed to enter the cage and he just leaves and turns heel and leaves his team abandoned, could that be when Randy Orton's music hits instead and Randy ends up coming to save the day? It's possible. It's possible. So Seth Rollins is still your world heavyweight champion. So next we get the women's 5-way. And the match was okay. Crowd was nowhere into it like they were the first two matches. Rhea Ripley, though, different story. For those that are curious as far as the ring outfits for today, that are obviously fully clothed because of Saudi Arabia. Zoe Stark coming out with camouflage, leather jacket, and a t-shirt. Nia Jax coming out in technically one of her normal outfits. And she was showing off a little bit of a new hairdo. I actually like Nia Jax's hair. Kind of reminds me, anybody remember Coming to America? I remember the guy with the Jerry curls. I almost look like Nia Jax dressed like him for Halloween and just forgot to change her hair. Yeah, Ramsford says Weird Al Jack. Weird Al Jakovic. That kind of reminds me of Dijak. Anybody remember when I used to always mispronounce Dijak's name when he first started in NXT? Instead of me calling him Dijakovic, I used to call him Dijakovic. And people like, no, that DT, that's not how you say his name. And I would say, no, that's his name, Dominic Dijakovic. But so Nia Jax comes out. Shayna Baszler reminded me a little bit of Ronda Rousey's outfit, coming out in the full gi. I think that's what you call it. Raquel Rodriguez probably didn't please the Saudi Arabia elders. I know she's doing a pose where she shows her back and she usually shows off her shoulder muscles. But, if you look at this and you're not a normal WWE fan and you're an older Saudi guy, maybe in his 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that is old school, if you know what I mean. Why is this woman showing her buttocks? Like, it kind of looked like she was showing off her ass, which is something you don't do over there, let's be honest. But then we got an interesting introduction for Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley, the lights go green. And I'm sorry I don't have the music queued up. I would get hit with copyrights. We'll use my speaker, which you can't see in the background. Hopefully I don't hurt it and cause an explosion. But when the lights turn green, I honestly expected somebody in Saudi Arabia to go, "Are you ready?" Dun, dun. Oh, shit. See, like things are falling already. I thought we were getting D-Generation X. Are you ready? Dun, dun. And no, but we get a couple of, Saudi, full outfit, I guess, holding, I don't know, were those like trophies, crowns, like a crown trophy, a cup? I mean, I really couldn't see what they were holding, but they were coming out and they kept coming and they kept coming and they kept coming. And I'm like, this is going on for a long time. The cup of Christ, is that what it was? I'm a little surprised at that. Nah, that can't be. I would be shocked. Why would you use religion for Rhea Ripley's intro? I would be shocked if that's it. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but, it was just kept going and going and going. And as I'm watching, I keep saying to myself, this kind of reminds me of D-Generation X. But at least, we know we're not getting a bald Shawn Michaels. Instead, we're getting Rhea Ripley. She comes out. And by that time, you have like, I don't know, you have like, 20 Saudis on the stage? And Rhea Ripley comes out, and Rhea Ripley, she looked so fucking badass. I mean, her hair was spectacular, her makeup, everything about her intro. Like she looks like a superhero. She looks like somebody, how they had like the Marine, and after a while, like it went from like John Cena to like low budget actors or something. Like she could come out in like the Matrix. Like if they came out with like the Matrix Part 18, like it's not what it used to be, but she looks like a superhero. She comes out and the crowd is going nuts for her. And she enters the ring and she's got that presence about her, and the match is on. And the match itself was not bad. Zoe Stark tried, but when WWE paints her as such an underdog, that does not help, because Zoe Stark does not give the Tegan Nox vibe. So it doesn't give the underdog vibes. It gives someone that you say to yourself, I know they try, but it doesn't feel like she got super over in the Trish Stratus storyline, and the wrong person turned babyface in that storyline, in my opinion. But she tried, but they painted her as the ultimate underdog. We had a lot of moves, a lot of power moves. Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez at one point having a little bit of a confrontation, which the crowd got into. But the crowd, for the most part, was not really into this match. Towards the end, they got into it, and they got into it more because of moves like this, where you have Nia Jax. You can't see Raquel Rodriguez, but Nia Jax has 2 leg submissions going at the same time. One leg of Rhea Ripley's and the other of Raquel Rodriguez. And she's trying to get them to submit. And here comes Shayna Baszler with the Kirifuda clutch. So we have 3 submission moves going on at the same time. And as this is going on, you're saying to yourself, okay, let's see what Zoe Stark is going to do to kind of top that. And she just gives a lame-ass kick to Shayna Baszler. It was kind of like, be honest, like a wet fart. But we had a lot of moves like that. We had a move where there was like a double suplex and a power bomb at the same time involving everyone. You got to give credit to Zoe Stark, though. There was a point where Zoe dived to the outside onto Raquel, Nia, and Shayna Baszler. But unfortunately, she hits the ring and hits kind of like a lame drop kick to Rhea Ripley. And Nia Jax is right back in the ring to break it up. But sure enough, towards the end of the match, Raquel Rodriguez with a Tejada bomb. She hits a Tejada bomb on Nia Jax. And the crowd was into that because of the size factor. You do any power moves to Nia Jax, people are going to ooh and ah over it. Raquel goes to pin Shayna Baszler instead. But what's going on is Rhea Ripley is on the middle rope. And as she's on the middle rope, Zoe Stark climbs the rope also. And I guess Zoe Stark was going to try to suplex Rhea Ripley, I think. So now you got to picture Rhea Ripley and Zoe Stark tied up on the middle rope, sitting on the middle rope. In the ring, you have Shayna Baszler and Raquel Rodriguez and Nia Jax. So we get a pin attempt where Raquel is trying to pin Shayna Baszler. So how Rhea Ripley breaks up the pin attempt is she picks up Zoe Stark from the middle rope and lands a riptide onto the back of Raquel Rodriguez. And because Shayna Baszler was the one buried in all of this mess, Raquel Rodriguez, she's out because of the riptide to her back. Zoe Stark was the one who was the recipient of the riptide, so she's out of it. Nia Jax is already out of it. So Rhea Ripley immediately goes and pins Shayna Baszler. That was one of the bonus questions for our Patreon and YouTube subscriber contest. Who's going to eat the pin? I know a lot of us said Zoe Stark, but it ended up being Shayna Baszler. So your winner and still women's champion, Rhea Ripley. And you, as you see that, you say to yourself, it looks like her makeup did not smear at all. Her makeup was still pretty much intact, but Rhea Ripley looked great. She looked great in this match. Everybody had a chance to shine, but the crowd was nowhere near into this match. And honestly, as we said earlier, Io Sky and Becky, Io Sky and Bianca Belair, crowd was not really into that match either. Something was just off about it. I don't know if maybe just Saudi Arabia wanted someone more like of a Charlotte Flair, more of like the superhero person. I don't. And Charlotte Flair is tremendously over in Saudi Arabia. I just don't think the fans in Saudi Arabia cared as much for Io Sky. And that's not a knock on Io Sky. I just think, plus the storyline has been a hot mess. When you see Bayley come out there earlier and Io Sky is acting like it's the night of Fastlane, it was a little goofy. So, all right, we continue. And Benjamin, I don't mean to criticize you, but you say, what do you expect from Saudi Arabia and how they treat their women? I don't know if anybody in that crowd treats any of the women with disrespect. Most of the people in that crowd were WWE fans. Trust me. I don't think you have a lot of Saudi elders in their 60s that were there live with their sons going, L.A. Night. The crowd that was into it were WWE fans. And I don't know if any of them mistreat women. I know the overall scope of laws and how women are treated is obviously needs to be better, but that doesn't mean that people live in attendance act that way. Women's match was okay, but honestly, it was a little bit underwhelming. But it did what it needed to do. This match with John Cena and Solo Sikoa. My God, we went an hour already. Unbelievable. We'll be done by 90 minutes. But this match with John Cena and Solo Sikoa, we know the storyline. We don't need to get into all the details about it. John Cena doesn't know if he has it anymore as far as a singles run. Maybe he should not have won the Fastlane match, because the longer we don't see John Cena's hand raised, the more storyline-wise, that feels more powerful. He won at Fastlane, but we're supposed to feel like, oh, unless he's a tag team wrestler, he maybe needs to retire. Maybe he still doesn't have it. This match with Solo Sikoa was very good. The problem with this match, and this is not a whole lot of criticism, but if you follow Solo Sikoa and everything he does, I honestly would have called him slower. Not Solo Sikoa, slower. Slower Sikoa. Slower Sikoa. He had to go gaga in a lot of this match. If this match, for anybody out there that's never gone to an indie wrestling event, this match would have been the perfect template for an indie wrestling match, indie wrestling card main event. What I mean by that is there's nothing in the match that you're going to remember 5 years from now. Oh, do you remember the night when the only thing that you're going to remember from this match is Solo Sikoa hitting 15 spikes on John Cena. 15. Not 1, not 3, not 5, 15. That's the only thing you're going to remember about this match. This match was the perfect template of when you have an indie card and you have two stars, two household names in wrestling, main eventing your indie wrestling event, and they go 10 minutes and there's a lot of gaga. Solo Sikoa had to slow down tremendously in this match. And again, that's not criticism, but this is the kind of match that you got today. Solo, a little bit more animated than usual, a lot slower, methodical is the word that people like to use. And this was because he's taken on John Cena. So Solo would do something, and in a normal match, Solo would do A, B, C, and D. Today, it was A, look at the crowd. B, C, D. And you realize something that would normally take 20 seconds took 60 seconds. So it was a gaga match. But everything that they did was good. And John Cena jumping off the top rope, which we haven't seen in a while. Crowd is chanted throughout the match, "You still got it. You still got it." And the match itself was great. No Paul Heyman with Solo Sikoa. No Jimmy Uso with Solo Sikoa. So during this match, and the match was simply to play on the emotions for fans. Every time Solo was doing a slow beatdown to Cena, let's go Cena, let's go Cena, Cena would start getting a little bit of momentum, and then Solo would cut it off. So Solo working extra slow, and towards the end of the match, he teases the Samoan Spike. Now, during this match, and this is why I say it's the perfect template for an indie wrestling main event, John Cena is working on the right arm of Solo Sikoa. By working on the right arm of Solo Sikoa, Solo doesn't have 100% strength for the spike. And Solo was selling it good too, because during the match, you see Solo going like this, like trying to shake it off, like he's squeezing it. So that's why 15 spikes and John Cena isn't in a body bag. So because John Cena during the match working on Solo's arm, so Solo doesn't have anywhere near 100% strength in his arm. And that's the story being told. Cena, whenever he gets his offense, trying to work on Solo's arm, Solo being extra slow in this match and a little bit too cocky at times. And towards the end of the match, he's teasing a Samoan Spike a couple of times. John Cena stops it. One time he turns it into the STF. Another time he hits the his flurry of moves, tries the attitude adjustment, but Solo stops that and hits him with a Samoan drop. And then Solo 3 times corner splashes. A little reminiscent of Umaga running into the corner, ass first into your opponent's head. They're sitting on the corner. That looked pretty brutal. He did 3 times to Cena. But towards the end of the match, John Cena with a crossbody. Then he hits a choke slam, gets a 2 count. He attempts the attitude adjustment, and Solo turns it into a spinning solo. Then he tries the spike. John Cena hits the STF, locks in the STF, and then it's all over. Solo Sikoa goes on a spike orgy. He goes on a spike orgy. He nails one spike. He nails another spike. Yes, I know they're not all spikes, but he's nailing all these spikes, one after the other. We're going 3, 4, 5. If you would have done Nakamura, it would have been like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it just kept going and going and going. And now by the time you get to 8, John Cena is knocked the fuck out. Solo hits like 5 or 6 in a row, goes for the pin, and much to the shock of a lot of us out there, hey, if you saw the predictions or heard them, we rooted for Solo to win this. But in Saudi Arabia, would they actually do the feel-good moment or not? Solo Sikoa pins John Cena. As John Cena leaves SmackDown, John Cena leaves LA Knight in a much better place, and he leaves Solo Sikoa in a much better place. My only issue with the finish was, even if his arm wasn't 100%, the way John Cena was unconscious and he's going one spike after spike after spike after spike. Soon as Solo leaves the ring, John Cena gets up. He's a little groggy, and the crowd is cheering Cena. Thank you, Cena, cheering Cena. And Cena gets up, and he's waving to the crowd. And only when he was 3/4 up the rampway did he start kind of selling the fact that he just got 98 Samoan spikes to the throat. As he's like 3/4 up the rampway, he goes, I'm like, oh, now you're going to say, like, I would have held my neck and been like, so he was waving, acknowledging, thanking the fans. And I'm like, you just took 15 Samoan spikes, not 1, not 5, 15. And he kind of no-sold him, but it was a very good match. They worked hard. You realize this was Saudi money. Cena worked great. Now we got to see what happens on Friday. Does Cena give a goodbye speech? For now. This is not goodbye forever, but for now, it's goodbye. And then we got to see, does someone come out there and finish him off? Does he have any interaction with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory? Does Solo Sikoa cut? Because remember, Michael Cole at the very end of this made a comment that you could run with this to Mania. Is Solo Sikoa the one who retired John Cena? That absolutely could be something that every time Solo comes out for a match from now to Mania, that's the guy that retired John Cena. So we got to see what happens on Friday. We have to see what happens on Friday. But match itself, good. No issues. John Cena worked his ass off, and crowd enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. Logan Paul, Rey Mysterio. Now, earlier in the day, they showed footage of Logan Paul riding the dunes in a dune buggy. And, then they showed him during the day in the sand dunes. Then they show him on the streets in Saudi Arabia. And supposedly he's even driving up into the event in the dune buggy. And I'm sorry if I upset anybody. As I'm watching this segment, in the back of my mind, for some reason, I started thinking of Hangman Page when he was riding the horse on the streets right before his match. And I know it was pre-recorded, but I was laughing because they filmed all of that at like 3:30 in the morning when there wasn't one person out. Like, at least he's riding the dune buggy in regular traffic, and they had great drone shots. Like I could ride a fucking horse in the streets of my neighborhood at 4:00 in the morning when nobody's around. I don't know why, but I just thought about that earlier. But Logan Paul shows up on the stage with the dune buggy, and the match is on. You can see Logan Paul is watching some old school wrestling. He did some moves that are used today, the buckshot lariat. He did a few other moves, but he also did some old school stuff. And honestly, I don't remember the last time somebody did the Warrior splash and power slam and splash combo. I honestly can't remember. For some reason, I'm thinking CM Punk did that once, but who would have CM Punk lifted up and just drop him like a sack of potatoes? Somebody did, but you don't see that often, and it's kind of surprising because it is a nice power move. But Logan Paul doing a little old school today, taking a page from the Ultimate Warrior, doing press slam and the splash for a 2 count. Does the Bruno backbreaker that Bruno Sammartino made famous. Didn't originate it, but he made it famous. Now, of course, you're going to do it on Rey Mysterio because Rey Mysterio is $175. You're not going to do that on a guy that's 250 pounds. It might be a little bit more difficult to do, especially when it's kind of dead weight. But this match, maybe a little bit tamer than your usual Logan Paul matches. Like, are you going to remember spots other than what we talked about? There was one point during this match that it was really, really cool. And I'm glad Wade Barrett kind of pointed it out to Michael Cole, because there was one point where Rey Mysterio was on the ropes and Logan Paul did a fall-away slam. But Wade Barrett picked up on it that not only did Logan Paul hit a fall-away slam off the rope, the top rope, the middle rope, but he also did a moonsault. So not only did he do the fall-away slam to Rey, but he held on to Rey and did a moonsault. Do you have any idea how hard that is or how strong you have to be to do a moonsault while you're holding someone? Just imagine that. Like, you're just holding 175 pounds of whatever and you flip. Try to do that in a pool. Try to do it in a pool. Pick up, a cousin of yours that's 175 pounds and try to do a moonsault into the pool. At least you'll land into water. No matter how you land, you probably won't break your neck. Make sure you don't do it in a kiddie pool. Do it in a pool that's like 5 feet deep. But this match was a lot calmer than normal Logan Paul matches, but the crowd was into it, and it was a great match story-wise. But again, as we said earlier, we had some bullshit involvement in it. We had some moments, Rey Mysterio, a little bit of a ground game with Logan Paul, teasing a 619 a couple of times. Here's the press slam Logan Paul did to Rey Mysterio, followed by the splash, which was good. But unfortunately, towards the end of the match, we get this guy. He kind of looks, who's the Jets quarterback again? He kind of looks like a dwarf version of, oh my God, who's the guy that went from the Packers to the Jets that injured himself? Like Aaron Rodgers. He looks like if Aaron Rodgers had some type of unfortunate disease and ended up a foot shorter. He looked like a dwarf Aaron Rodgers. He's at ringside. He goes to hand a pair of brass knucks to Logan Paul. And the brass knucks fall to the outside of the ring. So now you got this schmuck outside the ring. We don't know who he is. And he creeps to the opposite side of the ring. And meanwhile, the referee supposedly doesn't see any of this. And he's trying to get to the brass knuck so he could give him to Logan Paul. And then Santos Escobar, dressed for the occasion, Santos jumps the guardrail and stops. This, like if Hornswoggle fucked Aaron Rodgers, you would have this. Look how small that guy looks. Honestly, he couldn't ride the rides in Saudi Arabia. You must be this high to ride this ride. He stops this guy, and Santos Escobar chases him into the crowd. So this guy is gone. Santos is gone. But somehow this midget got the brass knucks on the apron, on the side where Rey usually hits the 619. So as Santos chases the dwarf outside the ring, Logan Paul gets set up for the 619. He looks down. Oh, shit. Here's the brass knucks. Puts the brass knucks on his hand. He gets hit with the 619. And then Ray goes for a dive, and Logan Paul knocks his ass out. Logan Paul pins Rey Mysterio. 1, 2, 3. You're new. United States champion, Logan Paul. Now, obviously, Logan Paul is not the best improviser when it comes to promos, unless you want to interpret it that he was acting cocky. But the mics were queued up, and Ray is in the corner holding his face because he just got hit with brass knucks. And Logan Paul comes up to him. Logan Paul, you don't hear it for a few moments, but it sounds, and he looks like a sign of respect. And I guess Ray is trying to dictate him like you're supposed to be a heel, like till you go in the back. This is no hugging moment. You hear Ray go, I know what you did. I know what you did. And Logan Paul is calling him a legend. And he's like, no, I did it clean, fair and square. You know, I love you. So towards the end, it sounded like Logan Paul was being a wise-ass dick. But at the beginning, it just looked like a respect moment. And that's one of the things, if you remember, even up to 2 weeks ago, that was one of our complaints about Logan Paul. Logan Paul has this urge to slap hands with fans, even if he's a full-blown heel. And he's done that numerous times, even with his feud with Ricochet. When he comes out, you got some fans in attendance. Logan Paul, you're the man. Good. Kick his ass. And Logan Paul will slap fire. I get it. They're my fans. So, but still, when you're a chicken shit heel, I don't care how much somebody's kissing your ass or fawning up to you. You don't acknowledge that with anybody because you come off more as a babyface. This was a little bit awkward, but Logan Paul steals the win. It was a good match. Again, the guy just nails it. I don't like him. I don't follow him on social media. I have nothing personal against him, but everything he does in wrestling, you could see he puts in the work. He doesn't just wing it. And this is probably one of the best compliments I could give him. I said at the beginning of the show, he's too arrogant to be average. That could be on a shirt. Too arrogant to be average. He's too arrogant. Everything has to be top quality. And it shows. It shows when someone is just rehearsing for one match and going through the motions. This guy takes it to a different level. And give Ray credit too, because Ray, obviously, and the interesting thing that I'm reminded of that Michael Cole said earlier in the day, hyping up the match later on, Rey Mysterio, when he went to ECW in 1995 and then ultimately jumped to WCW, that's the year Logan Paul was born. So Ray is wrestling longer than Logan Paul's been alive. It's pretty wild. Because listen, 15 years ago, when we were doing the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show, who would have ever thought, with all the knee injuries that Ray was getting, that we would have said 15 years later, he would still be wrestling? Is that a guy that you would have thought would have been wrestling 30 years? And that's nothing but love and a compliment to Ray. But remember last week when I predicted Logan Paul winning, who do I think he's going to feud with? I think at the beginning of the show, somebody asked me in the chat too, I think Logan Paul is going to feud with Kevin Owens. I think Logan Paul and Kevin Owens are going to have a program. I feel it. I think it would work. I think Kevin Owens stunning Logan Paul a few times leading up to a match, crowd would eat it up. Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens. Mark it down. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. All right. How long are we going? All right, we're almost done. Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. Not much that I need to add from what I said earlier. This match was okay, but it was lacking. It was lacking. The crowd was not into it as much as they should have. Late in the match, Io Sky hits a drop kick to Bianca's knee. And as I said earlier, I'm taking the notes and I'm seeing what's going down. And I keep thinking in the back of my mind, some people earlier reporting that Kairi Sane could debut as early as today. And as I'm watching this match, I'm picturing in my head, if Kairi Sane shows up, what is she going to do? Is she going to turn on Io Sky? Is she going to help Io Sky? Is the crowd going to even acknowledge Kairi Sane? Kairi Sane might be really, really beloved on social media, and you might paint this picture that, every mainstream WWE fan wants to see Kairi Sane. And that's not exactly true. And I am a big fan of Kairi Sane. I'm glad she's back. Absolutely. That improves the women's division even better. I would like to see the tag team division improved a little bit better. But this match went through the motions, and it was kind of a rinse and repeat, if you want to be honest with you. Towards the latter part of the match, here comes Bayley and Io Sky doing a best impersonation. I was supposed to forget that they're back on the same page. Why you here? Why you here? No. I'm here, to make sure everything is okay. And what ends up happening, Bayley goes to the side of the ring. Io Sky tries to use Bianca Belair's hair for leverage, backfires. Bianca shoves Io Sky into the corner post. Bianca goes to get some offense on Io Sky, and here comes Bayley with some distraction by the referee. Bayley is then chased by Bianca Belair. Bianca climbs the ropes, dives onto Bayley to the outside of the ring, and then Io Sky, we get an awkward moment where Io Sky goes to hit Bianca Belair, but inadvertently hits Bayley. So Bayley is knocked for a loop for the brief moment. And as this is happening, I invite you to please, if you want to rewind anything, rewind this moment. When Io Sky accidentally hit Bayley, there was no crowd reaction at all. Crowd was still, for the most part, pretty dead. And then Bianca lifts up Bayley, goes for the KOD, and lo and behold, here comes Kairi Sane. Bianca Belair looks up. She acts like she saw a ghost. Kairi Sane hits her with a back slap to the head, shot to the head. Bianca goes down. Referee starts counting to 10. And as the referee is counting to 10, Bianca is outside the ring. We get a close-up. I don't understand why Michael Cole only said that she's a former NXT champion. She's had a pretty successful tag team run on the main roster, but Michael Cole only acknowledged, he did mention this, he mentioned her NXT run as if we're supposed to forget that she had a WWE main roster run. Maybe they want us to forget that she aligned with Asuka last time. But what ends up happening is Bianca rolls back in at the count of 9. And Io Sky immediately climbs the top rope, hits the moonsault, pins Bianca Belair. 1, 2, 3. And the match is over. And as this is going on, we get a little bit of a post-match beatdown. Bayley looks a little bit confused, might be the word, on the outside of the ring. Io Sky, she's celebrating. And as I said earlier, Kairi Sane doing a Nikki Cross impersonation with this look on her face like, oh, I don't see my friend for years. I am back. And she doesn't seem excited that she's with Io Sky. That might be storyline, my friends. That might be that maybe Io Sky worked out something. Maybe she promised a title shot. You help me. Kairi Sane doesn't look too excited to be there. And Io Sky, what's funny? Io Sky is kind of acting like Bayley here. And Kairi Sane is kind of acting like Io Sky. Aren't I right? Like, how many times have we seen Bayley like lift Io Sky's head and a hand, and Io Sky would look at her like, so to be continued, my friends, to be continued. All right, next we got Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes. Look, crowd was into it. Cody Rhodes is the most over guy in the WWE. LA Knight, obviously getting crazy babyface pops. But Cody Rhodes, the number one guy. You know, I know people want to say LA Knight, overnight sensation. Cody Rhodes, consistent, building to the story. If LA Knight would have defeated Roman Reigns today, it would have been one of the biggest upsets in recent wrestling history. That's when you understand the difference between Cody Rhodes and LA Knight. And that's not a shot on LA Knight. Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest was designed for one reason and one reason only. Well, two. Number one, for Cody Rhodes to get a win in Saudi Arabia. But number two, to kind of set up more for WarGames. So we get this match, and the match is going on like a Raw match between Cody and Damian Priest. Damian Priest attacks Cody right before the bell, but Cody quickly gets the upper hand. Very early in the match, Cody goes and clears the announcer's table. Damian Priest nails Cody with a vicious clothesline. Attempts a razor's edge on the announcer's table, but Cody wiggles out, and he then dives onto Damian Priest. They land on the table. Damian Priest attempts to pick up Cody. Cody attempts crossroads, but the Damian Priest hits the reckoning. Hits his variation of the same move. And this was weird because Damian Priest hit the reckoning, and we had two chants back-to-back for Damian Priest. One of them was, "You suck." Crowd is chanting, "You suck, you suck." They also chanted, "One more time, one more time." Go back and play it. You'll see what I'm talking about. So as they're around the announcer's table, they work their way back into the ring, and Cody quickly nails a crossroads on Damian Priest. Before you could even burp, Finn Balor coming down the rampway. JD McDonagh, who suffered that horrible burn early on. And you got to imagine if he had a whole bunch of Vaseline on there and he had his shirt on, hopefully they bandaged that up. But he is around ringside as well. And then Dominic Mysterio comes down the rampway. So you have all two members of Judgment Day, plus JD McDonagh, no Rhea Ripley. They're all coming down to ringside to interfere. And here comes Jey Uso. He nails the super kick onto JD McDonagh. He nails the super kick onto Dominic Mysterio. He goes and tries to nail all three, including Finn Balor with chairs. He is celebrating. And all three of them start retreating, and Jey Uso chases them to the back. Then, like that, the match was pretty much over. Cody Rhodes hits the Cody Cutter. He hits the Dusty Punches, and then hits the Bionic Elbow. Then Cody nails a Cody Cutter off the middle rope, for almost a 3 count. Crowd is chanting, "This is awesome." And before you know it, almost immediately after, a trifecta of crossroads for the win. And Cody Rhodes prevails. He is your winner. And he gets the pin on Damian Priest. And the crowd loves it. So, and as I said earlier, they were chanting, "Where's your briefcase?" Now, is Sami Zayn going to start coming out with the briefcase? I hope not. I hate goofy stuff like that. But, hey, maybe for the beginning of Raw, you do that just to troll Damian Priest. But, that's got to change. And remember what I said, guys. Once this match is official for WarGames, probably not until after Survivor Series happens, but expect the Judgment Day to lose those WWE Tag Team Championships. They were only given the belts back to explain why they would be on, technically, the Bloodline's team to beat on Raw guys, for the most part, at WarGames. So they're going to keep those belts for a short amount of time. By December, those belts will be off Finn Balor and Damian Priest. So now we get to the main event. And the match was good. It's listen, when we did predictions, we're very honest. There was no chance of LA Knight winning this. I know you got some websites that up until last minute there's always a sucker out there to think that he could win, lose it back to Roman, and Cody finishes the story. It was never going to happen. There was two goals for this match. Number one, cement LA Knight as a bona fide main eventer. Crown Jewel did for LA Knight what Elimination Chamber did for Sami Zayn. Yes, Sami was in WWE for many, many, many years leading up to that. LA Knight is not around that long. But this is to cement LA Knight that if he main events a house show, if he main events a SmackDown, if he main events a premium live event, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel that they're doing it simply because he's over. They're doing it because he can go in the ring. He stood toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns tonight. It did not look like someone who is insanely over, but is just not ready. LA Knight as world champion is not ready because of the storyline surrounding leading up to WrestleMania 40. Outside of that, if this was a different situation, LA Knight could easily be a world champion right now. There's other circumstances that are preventing it. One thing we could say going forward is that the reason why LA Knight is not champion is not because he's not ready. That's the biggest goal that was needed tonight, and it delivered. The second goal was to give the fans what everybody wanted. LA Knight, do you remember? Go and do a little search on my channel or on DonTony.com. Do you remember about 6 months ago, I had in the title of one of the episodes, Better Nights Ahead, and I spelled nights with a K at the beginning of it, because this was the time where they teased that he was going to team up with Rick Boogs, which was asinine that people have actually thought they were going to form a tag team. It was for one night. And then he was losing again. And then people like, oh, what the fuck are they doing with LA Knight? And it was Better Nights Ahead that they were going to start pushing him. They started pushing him. But you still, in the back of your mind, were thinking to yourself, are they doing this simply because he's over right now, but they have no plans further than that? I always think back to Rusev. Day. Rusev, LA Knight, two totally different athletes, two totally different performers, two totally different arsenals. But when Rusev Day got tremendously over, you started feeling that, okay, are they actually giving Rusev a push? Or are they just giving us a little bit more because he's over? And you realized shortly thereafter that WWE had no plans on keeping Rusev as a main eventer. If you remember, after he was released, that infamous thing where Vince said, no, they weren't cheering with you, they were mocking you, whatever stupid thing that came out. But there was some truth to it. WWE never had plans to push the guy. WWE has plans to push LA Knight. Even when we were saying earlier, when we were showing that vignette where they were putting over the airlines and putting over Saudi Arabia and their accommodations and how everybody is friendly and everything like that, LA Knight is one of the people in those videos now. He has cemented his spot. And you will start to see WWE and Michael Cole and the announcers drift away from overnight sensation. LA Knight is no longer an overnight sensation. He is here. But unfortunately, it is not his time to become world heavyweight champion. He comes out for his match today, and somebody, props to whoever did it in the crowd, but somebody brought about 200, 300, maybe even more, 500 photocopies. Let me tell you something. Even if it was 1,000 photocopies, it could have very well been a few thousand. Actually, what am I saying? What am I, stupid? That's a couple of thousand. You go to Saudi Staples and you say, oh, give me 5,000, give me 5,000 that say, yeah, that's not cheap. That is not cheap. So whoever did that, man, big fucking props to them. Seriously, because that's expensive, man. So you had the entire audience, showered with the yeah signs, and LA Knight is super over. And as I'm watching this, I can't help but to think a little bit more than a year ago. This was a little bit more than a year ago. And yes, I miss Marseille and Mansois. And we see where Maxine Dupree is now. But you think a year ago to now, a little over a year ago to this. I mean, how does that happen? It's a cool moment. But unfortunately, he's dealing with this guy, Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns comes out, and Wade Barrett says, will the Yeah Revolution die in the desert? No, it didn't die, but you're obviously dealing with Roman Reigns, and the crowd is really, really pumped for this. It has that main event feel. Then I look at a shot like this, and it looks like Roman is so overpowering to LA Knight, which it really isn't. And, Dante Chen is, separating LA Knight for Roman Reigns, and the match is going on. And we get kind of rinse and repeat. We get an early brawl. LA Knight would immediately with a flurry of shots, but Roman Reigns gets the upper hand. He regains control. The brawl goes to the outside, and for the first 5 minutes, it felt like the match was rushed. I don't know about you, but it felt like it was rushed for me. LA Knight immediately goes to clear the announcer's table, and Roman Reigns attacks LA Knight, dumps him onto the ring steps, and Roman Reigns, doing like he always does, he smiles, he's laughing, he's mocking the fans. As I showed you earlier, he's doing this. And now you're eating up a couple of minutes, and Roman going slow, taking his time with LA Knight. LA Knight starts getting a little bit of offense. Roman counters, goes back and forth a little bit. LA Knight finally starts to get a little bit more offense, hits the neck breaker on Roman Reigns. But instead of going for the pin, he goes for, and it always reminds me of the People's Elbow. When he stops L.A. Knight and he does the elbow, right after the neck breaker, he doesn't go for the pin. He decides he's going to go for his elbow, and Wade Barrett pointed out, like, what are you waiting for? Pin the man. So he goes to do his elbow, and he eats a Superman punch. So now the tide is starting to turn back into Roman Reigns' favor. Roman climbs the middle rope. I don't know what he was going to try to do, but LA Knight quickly climbs the ropes also, and he nails that suplex that he has been doing, and he's been doing it beautiful for the last month. And then we get a little bit of rinse and repeat. Roman Reigns at one point has the headlock submission on LA Knight. LA Knight is almost going to tap out. And LA Knight kind of doing a little bit of a Hulk Hogan comeback. We think he's going to tap out to 3, but he doesn't. And Solo Sikoa shows up, and Solo is on the rampway. And as he's on the rampway, LA Knight is trying to break out of this. Gets a couple of shots in. Roman not letting it go. Gets to the ropes. Somehow LA Knight hits the blunt force trauma. That's how he breaks out of it. And LA Knight goes for the pin. But unfortunately, Jimmy Uso is outside the ring. Jimmy Uso puts Roman Reigns' foot on the ropes, and the count is broken up. So Jimmy Uso gets him out. Like, again, a lot of rinse and repeat with Roman Reigns title defenses. LA Knight sees Jimmy Uso, tries to grab Jimmy Uso while he's still inside the ring, and Roman Reigns nails the Superman punch, followed by a spear on LA Knight, but only gets a 2 count. So as the crowd is chanting, Roman sucks, Roman Reigns tries to get the upper hand. LA Knight finally regains control, knocks out Roman Reigns, knocks him for a loop. So now LA Knight makes the big mistake and follows outside the ring to Jimmy Uso. So as Jimmy Uso is like, I like you. So LA Knight is outside the ring with Jimmy Uso, and he starts attacking Jimmy Uso, and he actually drops Jimmy Uso through the table. Unfortunately, right after he puts Jimmy Uso through the table, Roman Reigns spears LA Knight through the barricades. Spears him right through the barricades. Crowd is chanting, holy shit. Roman Reigns gets LA Knight back into the ring, hits the spear, and gets the pin. 1, 2, 3. So, because of Jimmy Uso's interference, no Solo Sikoa interference I should bring up. Solo was on the rampway, but Solo really didn't do anything. It was all Jimmy Uso, and that's obviously designed for SmackDown. You know, we had Jimmy Uso and LA Knight recently having a match. We'll see where this leads with Wargames. You know, LA Knight is not a lock for the Wargames match, but that's definitely a factor. And we got to see how it incorporates with Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, you know, if you really split hairs on that. But Roman Reigns gets the pin on LA Knight. And after the match is over, Paul Heyman with a little sign of concern for Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns keeps his championship, and we go off the air. So it was a good show. I mean, 3.5 hours about with Sami and the pre-show, you know, about 4.5 hours. If we take the other half, we had some video packages early on. They did a video package of Bobby Lashley. The Drew McIntyre one was repeated. We had various people being pushed. You know, I will say this. Because of the predictable outcomes, we knew what was going to happen with Roman versus LA Knight. We wanted to see how creative they were going to be with this. And for me, it was a lot of what we would see on any other premium live event. It doesn't feel like they went out of their way to be a little bit extra creative this time. Yeah, LA Knight came very, very close of getting a pin a few times, but in the end, it didn't feel really, you know, just like they took the extra step to be a little bit surprising. You know, Logan Paul winning, kind of expected, but, you know, in the end, Logan Paul probably won the way he should have. But overall, is this going to be a crown jewel? Is this one of their better ones? I will say that there really wasn't a bad match on the card, but was there really a really good match on the card? Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest felt more of like a Raw match, or, you know, a little bit extra special, but not, you know, where we think it should be. John Cena and Solo Sikoa was great. You know, Cena did more, I think, what a lot of people expected. But in the end, Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins was excellent, but I think the wrong person won. But I do truthfully believe that Drew McIntyre will win the rematch and will become World Heavyweight Champion. But overall, I don't want to say this really stood out, you know, is one of the better, real strong crown jewels. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 7. And I give it a 7 because nothing was bad. You know what I mean? There was no bad match on the card. I give it a 7. My favorite match of the night, probably, boy, I tell you, it's kind of a toss-up between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. I can't choose Janie McDonagh and Sami Zayn because that was a kickoff show. But I will say Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre because it was anybody's match. Even though the wrong person won, it was anybody's match. And there was no interference. No interference. You know, I'm going to stick with Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. My least favorite match of the night was probably Io Sky and Bianca Belair. And it's not because of anything Kairi Sane related. You know, I know who she was. I knew she was returning. I'm happy to see her back. the crowd's reaction doesn't influence me any differently how I feel about it. Just the match just felt very underwhelming. It did not feel, anything different that we would have saw in a SmackDown, in my opinion. So before we go off the air, I see a question and a comment came in earlier. Cigar, thank you, Cigar. Why did they bury Cena like that? They did not bury John Cena. John Cena, again, with the story being told that Solo's spike wasn't 100%, that's why he kept shaking his hand. So, when they say, oh, he didn't get a lot out of that, so he didn't have enough strength, so he had to do it 15 times. Ask me that question after Friday. But John Cena's leaving for Hollywood. I know there's still a writer's strike, I believe, or the actor strike was settled, the writer's strike was not. But John Cena, even if the strike wasn't settled, his story has to come to a conclusion right now. John Cena came back for a couple of months. He did a good job. He did a very good job. He leaves LA Knight in a much better place. He leaves Solo Sikoa in a much better place. Jimmy Uso, Roman Reigns did not need anything John Cena stuff at all. You keep the seed planted that maybe John Cena does something at Mania, possibly with Grayson Waller or Austin Theory, like we said earlier. I don't think he was buried at all. If you really wanted to bury Cena tonight, you would have left him unconscious where he doesn't get up and wave and thank everyone and allow everybody to show their love and televise it. So I don't think he was buried. But his current run is coming to an end. And Nathan Timlin with another 5 spot. Thank you, Nathan. I didn't like the finish of Logan and Mysterio. As in storyline, why would Santos Escobar or Pablo Escobar put the brass knucks back onto the ring? Yeah, a lot of that was confusing. I don't know. I mean, I didn't see who put it back on the ring. If Santos put it on the ring for Ray to use, that's stupid. That's stupid. And you know what? If Santos put that on the ring, then Logan Paul, that should be the first thing that he says on SmackDown to justify it. Actually, that makes more sense. Nathan is onto something. Logan Paul could go on SmackDown Friday and say, your partner put those brass knucks on the ring. He wanted you to use them. So I just took advantage of the opportunity. If I didn't take it, how do I know you wouldn't have taken it? Your partner gave it to you. So if I'm Logan Paul, if Santos put those knucks on the ring, on the apron, that should be Logan Paul's opening promo. Hey, I didn't put them there. Your partner put them there. I capitalized on the situation before you did. You would have done the same thing I did. I capitalized before I gave you the chance to do so. If the dwarf put it on the apron, then Logan Paul, chicken shit, cheap way out, blah, blah, blah. So to be continued. Either way, though, it's going to be curious to see where they go now with Logan Paul. I want to see the Kevin Owens feud. I think that'll be really good. And remember, Logan Paul will not have this championship for a very long period of time. We got to see who is the heir apparent for the United States Championship. It could very well end up being Kevin Owens. It could be somebody right now that we have not even on our radar, who could end up beating Logan Paul down the line. Who knows? Maybe Santos Escobar ends up having a match with Logan Paul, but I don't think for a championship should happen anytime soon. So what did you guys think? For everybody who is live right now, because you're the only people that I could talk to, what did you guys think as far as Crown Jewel? I think we all give it a thumbs up, but we give it a thumbs up like, we don't like, yeah, like not with an exclamation point. It was like, all right, yeah, it was good. It was all right. We got some 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, average. A month from now, how much are we going to remember tonight? We'll remember Kairi Sane returned. We'll remember LA Knight had his moment. We'll remember, Drew McIntyre failing once again, but I think that'll quickly be forgotten if he wins on the rematch. There's not a whole lot I think we're going to remember after tonight. So, and even for that actor that came out early, I thought he did a decent job, but that's regional stuff, obviously, But I will tell you one thing before I go off the air. Actually, two things. Tomorrow night, 8:05 p.m. Cheap plug. Join me right here for the sit down. We could continue this conversation on Sunday, so we definitely could talk a little bit more. One other thing. I didn't mention this earlier because I'm not sure exactly what time it was posted, but there was buzz going around online about 10 minutes before Kairi Sane made her surprise appearance that somebody was in the back and actually was near the gorilla position, and Kairi Sane was sitting there waiting for her moment to go to the ring to interfere and make her return. And whoever that guy was shot a little bit of video of Kairi Sane and threw it all over the net about 10 minutes, 15 minutes before Kairi Sane made her return. So I saw the clip already. It's only about maybe 6-7 seconds long, but I'm going to check that out a little bit further and see exactly when that was posted. I mean, it's not a real big deal in hindsight. I mean, the Cracker Jack surprise was spoiled 10 minutes early, but I don't really think it would have mattered all that much. But there is a little video clip floating around. So surprised how many people on its live chat right now are only giving it a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. I don't blame you. I totally respect that. But there was definitely some moments that could have been handled a lot better. It just felt like they're going through the motions. But, as long as Saudi Arabia is very satisfied, that event sold out in 2 hours? So you get a great turnout. Everybody in Saudi's buzzing about it. You got WWE's experience coming in January and, 10 shows under their belt. $500 million WWE has made. $500 million. Just give me 1,000 of it. $500 million. So to be continued. We'll see what happens the next Saudi show. But we got Raw this Monday. And then again, we are immediately on the road for Survivor Series. 3 weeks away. 3 weeks. So, we'll get right into that conversation on Monday night. But tomorrow, the sit down if you want to join me. And, I hope you all enjoyed this recap, a little review. I know we went a little bit longer, but, we not only talk about the matches, we talk about, what we could expect in the future. A lot of scenarios we came up with today. We'll look back on it and see how many scenarios we came up with end up happening. So, my friends, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully some of you will be able to join me Sunday night for the sit down. If not, you're welcome to join me Monday after Raw. And as always, DonTony.com, DonTony.com. Download the audio shows. That keeps what I do alive and also keeps the shows in the hunt, in the mix, in the charts amongst everybody else out there, because the video side does not count on those stats, unfortunately. So if you really support the shows, you want to help in a way that is free, audio shows, download the episodes. I'm always going to keep a link in the description section on the video episode. So if you ever need a link, you'll see it in the comment section shortly after I'm done. So be well, everybody. Talk to you all again soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the hosts. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, Nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.